In this episode, we're going to do some 500px portfolio reviews. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, my name is Serge Ramelli. I am a French photographer living in the beautiful, the romantic, the amazing city of Paris, France, and the sunny city of Los Angeles, California. And I make 1 to 2 tutorials per week. Click here if you want to get over 200 RAW files, Lightroom presets, Photoshop actions, and textures for free. All you have to do is subscribe to my newsletter. You will get tons of promotions from me, and you will get all these goodies for free. All right, I'm happy to announce that this month, I'm an editor for 500px. That means I'm going to be daily picking 5 to 6 photos per day and putting them in the editor's pick section of 500px. So I will give you all the instructions so you can send me your 500px links and so I can make you famous stars. But now, let's do some 500px review. All right, 2 things before we get started. If you want to support these free videos on YouTube, all you can do if you buy anything from Amazon is go, for example, on my fine art section, which you can find my amazing fine art starting $99, or you can just click here, shop on Amazon, and support my free tutorials here. By clicking this, you get this Amazon link. If you drag and drop this link into your Chrome browser here, for example, and every time you click on it to buy something from Amazon, we get a small percentage which helps finance all the free stuff that we do. Also, one thing I'm very happy to announce that this month, I'm helping 500px to edit their editor's peak photo. You have a section here when you go on Discover, which is called Editor's Choice. And I'm part of the editors for this month of September, meaning that I will be picking up 5 to 6 photos every day and put them out on 500px in this section. It's a good opportunity for you to get more followers on 500px and becomes a star overnight. And that's really what I love about 500px, is because you can really, with their daily challenge, become very popular with your photos if you create photos that have great emotions, literally overnight. So for every day, I'm going to choose 5 to 6 photos and I'm going to post them on my daily newsletters where you get tons of promotions for my training, but at the end, you will get the result of the 5-6 photos which were selected. And to know who the winners are, all you have to do is sign up here to my newsletter. If you're not already signed up, just give me the first name, last name, email, password, create an account with us, and you will get everyday promotions on my courses, and you will get the winners for all the month of September. Okay, I had this idea of creating a little portfolio critique on 500px, meaning that I'm going to take a few portfolios and give some advice of ideas I think that could be to improve some photos. Now, as a warning, this is just my opinion as an artist. This is my viewpoint, my experience. Yours could be completely different, and I fully understand that. And also, I try to be positive in my critique and not to be negative. And I will also show you in this critique people which I find are very inspiring on 500px. So starting off with my friend Paradish Dragos, which I hope I'm not, messing up too much the name, which is already has a good following on he's got 19,000 affections, which is good on 500px. And I want to talk to you about a couple of his photos. I want to talk to you about this photo because you see, for me, when you do a great landscape, you need several things for this to work. You need a great subject, which I think this photo has. It's a great subject, small village, beautiful. You need to have what I think to make a good composition is having a foreground element, middle element, and background. So I say foreground, middle ground, background. For me, the foreground is this tree. The middle ground is this, village, and the background is the sky. And the other elements that you need to have is a light, a great light. Now, he had a great light. There's only one thing I don't like about this photo. Actually, a couple of things. I mean, I really like the photo, but I think it could be improved. The way he post-processed the sky was too contrasty, meaning that, that's my opinion, but the clouds are too dark. There's too much shadows in the clouds. It's just, I think, a more puffy, a more, basically less low exposure, less minus clarity on the sky would give it justice. Also because I would add some more radial filter or more brushes. I think that the light of this photo is too much the same everywhere. So for me, the ingredient that's missing on this photo is really the light. The light could be improved, but the subject's awesome. The foreground, background, middle ground is awesome. The composition is great. It's a very good photo, but that was just my idea to improve this photo. Okay, now another portfolio I noticed, Vivek Shaman, my other friends. 42,000 views on his portfolio. It's starting to be pretty decent. And there was a photo on black and white that caught my eyes that I wanted to show you. Oh yeah, it's this one. He called it Alone. And I like that photo, but because there's not such an interesting foreground, but the water is not so bad. We have a great middle ground with this boat, and you know, the background is pretty nice. But for me, the one thing that's missing a lot in this photo is when you make black and white, it's important to have good values in the black and good values in the white. Now, here, this part of the sky for me should be brighter because it's all grayish with a bit of black. And he actually has another photo that he took where he did that much better, and it's this one. Look how much white he added here, and I think it's stronger, except that this one, this photo is more boring because the foreground elements is kind of a high frequency texture, which I talk a lot, and I think that's not very nice, pleasing for the eyes. Plus, there's some halos here, but I like how he added this white. So I think if this photo, on this one photo, if he would add more white there, he would have a stronger result. More white here in the middle ground. Okay, next. Oops. Lubus Balazovic. Hello, Lubus. So he has some really interesting photos that I want to talk about. And it's really about, like, for example, I love this photo, how he respects, look at this foreground element. Beautiful. Middle ground, amazing. Background, amazing. I would have added a bit more white, but, this is a really interesting photo. I really like that photo. There's another photo that I like. This is the one he's using here on his homepage. It's a beautiful photo. I still think that he's got too much clarity in the sky here. I would have done a little minus clarity because you see, you have many types of gradient in the photo. One gradient is, contrast versus non-contrast. This photo is well contrasted everywhere. If this were to be less contrasted, it would give more depth to the photo. So it's just a little trick. So just adding a little minus clarity on the sky can do the trick. Okay, that's one thing I wanted to say. I love this photo. Look at that. Beautiful light. Very interesting. The only thing I don't like about it, and again, that's the big problem, is the foreground element has got a high frequency texture. That grass really is hurting my eye. So, and I tell you something. This is something that I say often when I do photography, and that is that the hardest thing for me in photography on landscape is the foreground element. Meaning, let's say that you want to shoot Notre Dame, a beautiful church in Paris. I'll show you on my portfolio. Beautiful church in Paris. You want to shoot Notre Dame. This is a very classic shot of Notre Dame that anybody can take. It's just a bridge that's behind Notre Dame. You have every day 100 or thousands photographers taking the same shot every day. And the thing is, I wanted to make an interesting foreground, and so what I did is I put on an ND filter. I had like a 1 minute, 2 minutes exposure until I got the Seine River like completely flat. Amazing sunset, and then the photo is more interesting because I think that my foreground, what's leading into your photo, is a bit more interesting, and it's not a high frequency texture. It's not my favorite photo. I actually made a new version of it, which I like, which is less contrasting, more like hazy type of thing. But what I find the hardest thing to do when you do landscape is finding a right, proper foreground element. Okay, that would be a good example of a good foreground element, which is this, and then you have that. I give it really weird colors, like Instagram colors on purpose, or this is, I think, kind of cool. That's a good foreground element, nice light, and so. When I do photography, this is where I was. When I do photography, the first thing that I look for is an interesting foreground element, because when you come to this Machu Picchu, for example, a very famous spot, where anybody can take a photo. this is a great photo. It's an interesting subject. You see, you always need to have an interesting subject. But here, the foreground, this is a high frequency texture. And this is what I see the most in photography, is people having like, you know, grass or, you know, some little trees, which are not so interesting in the foreground. The middle ground is amazing. The background is amazing. The light is kind of not so hot. I would imagine this on a sunrise or sunset would be nicer. But what's really missing is two things, a good light and a foreground element. But this gentleman has got, like, for example, this is another good example. The subject is interesting, but look at the foreground element. Pretty boring, high frequency texture. Let me see a photo that I really like. I mean, now this is another example which I like. You see here, you have this little hill with a nice light, and it is a high frequency texture, but because it's taken so from far, it looks pleasing to the eye. And I think this one has interesting, I mean, honestly, a little tree here, just a little bit of a tree would have been even nicer. But I tell you, the hardest thing for me in landscape, because it's very easy to find, there's so much beauty on this planet that to find an interesting subject, that's very easy. Waiting for the right light, very easy. But finding an interesting foreground element, that's harder. Now that's already more interesting. You see, I would have loved that it would be one flower that's a bit bigger than the other ones, but that's interesting. That's an interesting foreground. A little bit too much high frequency for me, but it's a good effort. Okay? And voila, that was some of the advice I wanted to give you. Now, for inspiration, I'm also going to give you, when I do this portfolio, people that I find amazing. And I saw this portfolio for Michael T. Lim. And this gentleman's got an amazing set of photos. Some photos are really breathtaking. Like, check out this photo, for example. I think this photo is really interesting. It's actually reversed. Like foreground, middle ground, background. I don't know. It's just, what a composition. Interesting lights, you know, with a very interesting subject. I find this really cool. I love this one. Look at this long exposure. Now, this is a very good example of, look how interesting this foreground element is. Look how amazing the middle ground is and the background. Honestly, and he did something interesting. You see how fuzzy this is and how contrasted this is? So he reversed it. He made the contrast in the sky and the non-contrast because of the long exposure in the foreground. That's a beautiful composition. Yeah, this is really very interesting. Beautiful portraits he's been doing. Now this is Paris, but this is a photo he took from the Tour Montparnasse, which I've been there hundreds of times. Beautiful light. I don't know, the way he processed it was interesting, and that light really made it really cool. So check him out. Follow him on 500px. He's much of a source of inspiration. Look at his photo of the antelope he did. They are really amazing. Voila. So that's my critiques of for this week. I will try to do one per week if possible. If you guys like it, I will do one per week on this type of episodes to give some advice. Again, this is just my opinion. It's not, you know, if you go see another professional photographer, he'll give you an opinion. But I hope some of this advice will help you to improve your photography.